Since today is the very last day of July, I have my July wrap up as well as my August TBR. Now, I'm really happy because I was able to read 6 books within the month, so I think that's a sign of a pretty good reading month. Now, with the first 3 books that I have for my wrap up, I've mentioned them at this point in maybe 2 to 3 videos, so I'll try to not go on too long about them. But the first book that I finished in July is Scream With Me: Horror Films and the Rise of American Feminism from 1968 to 1980 by Eleanor Johnson. I loved this book, and I think I saw that she has another book coming out within this like topic of women and horror films. So that is definitely something that I am going to have to look into a little bit more. After Scream With Me, I read Pachinko by Min Jin Lee. I absolutely loved this book. I rated it 5 out of 5 stars. However, I still have like this problem of not being able to fully convey my full thoughts about this book. I just feel so tongue tied because it was just so epic, amazing. It was just a really great book. And I don't know why I'm struggling so much with writing out my thoughts about this book. I thought maybe something that would help me is in the back, there are like reader guide questions, like study guide questions for like a book club or so. So I thought it would be a really fun idea to go through those questions and kind of just get a little bit more involved with the book. I picked one question and I was like, okay, I'm going to write this question down. I'm going to write down my thoughts about it because it pertains to the book and I never got to it. I do want to. I just think maybe this is going to be a little bit more of a slower hobby. But I really don't know what to say about this book. It was so amazing. So after Pachinko, I read Oh My Goth by Jenna Showalter. I've talked about this book too. I won't say much, but something that I will say is I think as cringy as it has a really nice message. And something that I didn't mention about this book in like my mid-year freakout tag video is I really liked that even though Jade and Mercedes were definitely like ops and and they just did not like each other, I did like that they seemed to be kind to each other in very specific ways. I don't know what word to put to that. But for some examples, it was after school. She was kind of just sitting in front of school waiting for somebody or just waiting to walk home or something. I don't know. Mercedes drives up to her and she's like, "Do you need a ride or something? Like, just get in." And Jade was like, "No, it's fine, thanks." So it's kind of like moments like that where they're not really liking each other, but they are kind to each other. Because another example, I think Mercedes went through a breakup or something with her on and off again boyfriend. And Jade found her kind of sad or something like in the middle of the night. And Jade was like, "Hey, are you okay? Do you want to talk about it?" And Mercedes was like, "Fuck off. Okay, I don't want to talk to you, but thanks." So it's kind of like that where they are definitely enemies, but there seems to be some sort of like nonverbal understanding that they will still look out for each other, but just in very specific ways. And they don't always like reach out for that olive tree that the other person is extending. So after Oh My Goth, I ended up reading a book called An Immaculate Deception by Isabella Levino. So I got this book as an e-arc in my email from the imprint Dutton Book. So I am really grateful for them for sending me an e-arc of this book. I'm really appreciative. And I feel really privileged that I got this book because I absolutely loved it. I also won't say too much about this book only because I did put a review of it over on my Bookstagram, but I rated it a 5 out of 5. And when I got to part 2 of this book, because there's 2 parts, well, obviously, part 1 and part 2. Part 1 is from the perspective of the female main character, whose name is Madalena. And then part 2 is told from the perspective of her lover called Leandro. And it was so good. I read this book with a couple of like my Bookstagram mutuals, so it was really fun because I am pretty sure I was like the very last person to read this book. I was watching everyone kind of send in their thoughts over in the Discord. And obviously there were spoilers, so like I didn't see what that spoiler was, but I saw the general consensus of like them saying like, "Oh my god, I can't believe I got to this part. It was crazy. I didn't expect this." So I was like, "Okay, what am I going to find when I read this book?" And when I read it, I was telling them my thoughts as I was reading the book. And I see exactly why they were responding that way because it was wild. It was so good. And in part two, I mentioned this in my Bookstagram post. I really loved that in part two, we start to connect the dots of a lot of things that were happening around the house and like the different people who were involved and different circumstances that were going on in part one. But even though we were connecting those dots in part two, there was still like an air of mystery about it. Not like we get the answers, but not like the full answers. It's like we get the answers, but the answers are just so like, I don't know, otherworldly and mysterious. And sometimes they are just so simple. You kind of kick yourself for thinking there was some like otherworldly reason for things happening. So it was just a really good book. I really loved connecting the dots in part two because I was like going back to part one to, oh gosh, okay, wait. Something is about to slip out of my mouth. I just loved connecting the dots. I thought it was so, so genius that the author was able to establish a lot of the mystery and the suspense, but then give us a perfectly sane explanation for all of the things that were going on. I really enjoyed this book and I thought it was really fun. And I especially loved reading it with everybody because I was the last person to read it. I just loved seeing everyone else's responses to this book and then realizing I am having those exact same responses as them too. And just looking at the Penguin Random House website, this book, An Immaculate Deception by Isabella Lavino, this is a debut gothic horror book and it blew me away. And I am very, very happy for this author and for their debut. I loved it and I will continue to search out books by this author because An Immaculate Deception was absolutely amazing. So after reading An Immaculate Deception, I read Plagueland by S.D. Sykes. I've mentioned this book in my July TBR video. I have had this book since 2017. It was always on the verge of being unhauled, but I would always end up keeping it. I finally got to reading it and I really, really enjoyed it. I rated it 5 stars. And I don't know if I want to say too much about this book because I do plan on uploading a Bookstagram review of this book like a few days after I plan to post this video. But what I will say about this book is it just had so many elements to it. This could 100% be a book that I would have read in like an English class or like a British literature class because this had political intrigue, a murder mystery. There were different like classes and societal hierarchies in here. There was religious manipulation, religious beliefs, religious rituals. I will say, as like a content warning, there was SA and abuse towards women, and there was also ableism as well as, well, I don't know if this next word is one you can say, and I don't know another word to say it, but there were sexual relations between family members that were not consensual. Again, I plan on making a Bookstagram review post about this book. I also didn't realize when I made my July TBR video, or maybe after or so, this is actually part of a series. I checked Goodreads and there's like 5 or 6 books in this book series. And it's really funny because I've had this book for as long that I have, and I had no idea that there were multiple books within this series. I also just am really fascinated with the Black Plague, so that was also a fun element to this. I think I do want to continue the series. I just don't think I will do so this year, maybe next year, because I already have so many other series that I'm working on. And I think this one I can definitely hold off just a little bit more. Okay, so I'm in a dilemma right now because I was going to mention the very last book that I read for July. And right now I was looking up videos on how to properly pronounce the author's last name. And I did find a video that says the author's full last name. But in continuing to watch that video, I also learned that the author used like chat GPT and AI with this book because they said only a few people have read this book, 2 humans and chat GPT. And I thought it was a joke, but then the interviewer was like, what was it? What has it been like to partner with like AI, chat GPT, something like that. So now I'm in a dilemma. I think I'm just going to skip over mentioning this last book for the moment. And I think I'm going to look into that just a little bit more because reading the caption, it does mention AI. and ChatGPT. So now I feel just kind of frazzled about this. So I'm just not going to mention the last book that I read for July. August is going to be really fun because I would love to read about 5 books for the month. And I've been trying to read a mix of like physical books and maybe 1 or 2 ebooks. But so far, the books that I want to read for August, 4 of them are going to be an ebook, and one of them is only going to come from my personal bookshelves. So, the first book that I want to read in August is Mutual Discord by Liana de la Rosa. I've mentioned in the past that I have read this author before. I really enjoy the Luna Sisters series. I think those books are just really, really fun. And they're one of the books that kind of motivated me to start reading a little bit more historical fiction. And when it comes to Liana de la Rosa, I was in like her author group. And in that author group, she was also really kind and gracious. And she sent the e-arc for Mutual Discord. My arm is going to get really heavy because I have like the descriptions for this book on my laptop. So for Mutual Discord, the description says this: Sofia Mendoza has had enough. She's done watching male coworkers steal credit for her talent, and now she's going to do something about it. No one knows she's the brains behind a popular video series highlighting and celebrating women in history who've been erased from their own inventions and discoveries. Her family and friends still think she has a successful corporate job, and if they discover she is supporting herself by creating social media content, they'd be stunned. Keeping her online persona a secret is lonely, but when she sparks a virtual friendship with an anonymous follower, first in her comment section with his insightful perspective, then in their private video chats, where he proves to be witty and catfish level good looking, the chemistry between them ignites. But when her old friend Caitlin arrives for a visit, Sophia's lies threaten to unravel. A is Alex Castillo, her best friend's boyfriend. Alex doesn't reveal that he knows her, and Sophia realizes he may be keeping secrets too. With their friendship now in real life, can they keep their attraction in check? This sounds so exciting, and I don't think I've read like a best friend's boyfriend type of book. I'm looking at my shelves and nothing is coming to my mind like right out of the gate. So this one is going to be so fun. I really enjoy Liana's writing, and this one sounds really fun. And I've seen some of the artwork for this book on her social media pages as well as the Discord for the author group that we're in. And I love seeing all of the art prints. So I think this one is going to be a super fun read. It does come out August 18th, I believe, 2026. So I definitely plan for Mutual Discord to be the very first book that I read in August. So that way I can get my book review out before the book officially comes out. So that is one book that I want to read in August. So with this next book that I want to read, I am going to read it with a reading group that I've mentioned before. It's the same group that I read What Fell from the Sky and Onder and Santi were here. I didn't join them for the July read because it was a book that I had already read before, but I plan to rejoin in August. And the book for August is The Time of the Hero by Mario Vargas Llosa. I hope I'm saying the last name right. And to read what this book is about, it says the action of The Time of the Hero, Nobel Prize winning author Mario Vargas Llosa's first novel, takes place at the Leoncio Prado Military Academy in Lima, Peru. There, 4 angry cadets who have formed an inner circle in an attempt to ward off the boredom and stifling confinement of the military academy set off a chain of events that starts with a theft and leads to murder and suicide. The Time of the Hero presents with great accuracy and power the cadet's nightmare life, brutal initiation rites, poker in the latrines, drinking contests, and, above all else, the strange military code which, whether broken or followed, can only destroy. At the bottom, it says, when The Time of the Hero was first published in Peru in 1962, it was considered so scandalous that 1,000 copies were burned in an official ceremony at the Leoncio Prado Military Academy. That same year, the book received the Biblioteca Breve Prize, an award given to the best work of fiction in the Spanish language. I think I'm going to have to research the history of this book a little bit more because I absolutely did not know that. I've never heard of this book or this author before. So that was one hell of like a fun fact. So this is definitely a book that I am really curious to read, but also one that I just really want to research like the background in. Book number 3 for the month comes from NetGalley, and honestly, I think I was either on NetGalley or I received an email from NetGalley, like the promotional emails because I'm subscribed to them, and I saw a book either on NetGalley or in the email, and then I ended up just clicking that book and then was sent to NetGalley's website. I saw this book and I just thought it sounded so cool. It is called Strange Lights by Mira Gonzalez. And it says here, paranormal investigator and cryptozoologist Reggie has embraced her fate as a parent to an adopted toddler, Eldie, a blood sucking chupacabra with a fondness for goats. Reggie wants nothing more than to put her complicated past in the rearview mirror and fade into as much obscurity as her toddler will allow. But a rash of UFOs in the night sky and a couple of crop circle carving Roombas force Reggie into an investigation that attracts the attention of an old enemy, an anti supernatural agency hunting for creatures like Eldie. To outwit them, Reggie must team up with Calvin, a podcaster turned werewolf whose charm is a real threat to Reggie's rule against romantic attachments. With Reggie's history quickly catching up to her and LD in the agency's crosshairs, any shred of normalcy evaporates. Reggie must decide, can she confront her dark past to save LD and an entire alien species from getting wiped out of the universe? I think this sounds so fun. So I don't know if I mentioned it before. I'm like super into like cryptids. I love like UFOs, the chupacabra, like Loch Ness Monster. I love things like this. I think it's so fun and it's so interesting. And I think this sounds like it's going to be an incredibly fun read. Like, I would literally spend my time researching like aliens and UFOs and crop circles that pop up in different areas throughout the United States and in other places. I am super into this kind of thing. So, this book is totally perfect for me. Also, the cover is just so pretty. I love like the pink going on, and I love that the stars in the sky are forming the book title. This is going to be a really fun read. I'm really excited. So, with this last ebook, I don't have to hold my laptop up for it. But another ebook, or I don't know if I will get it as an ebook or as a physical book, but I read An Immaculate Deception with a couple of people over on Bookstagram. And some of the hosts ended up making like a reading group and they picked the next book for August. And I joined because I have never read this book and I have never read this author. The next book that I want to read, either as an ebook or a physical book in August, is The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood. I have never read an Ali Hazelwood book before. I am pretty sure I bought Bride for my Kindle because it was on sale and I thought, oh, okay, really? That's cool. It's on a deal. I've never read Ali Hazelwood. This could be a good place to start. And I just never read it. So now I understand that the movie is coming up for The Love Hypothesis. I mean, it's fine as an ebook, but the thing is, I've looked on Libby. I looked at the two libraries that I have, and I only have two on Libby. But it says that it's a several months wait to even get that book. So I was like, okay, I can't get it through Libby. That's fine. I tried to add more libraries onto Libby, but for some reason, I don't know if I'm not doing it right or something, but I can never just add another one. And then I tried finding the book on Hoopla, but on Hoopla, I type in the love hypothesis and it just gives me all like these other books that have similar names to the love hypothesis. So that's obviously not going to work. So the very last book that I want to read next month is also the only physical copy that I have. That is Funerals Are for the Living by Sammy Ellis. So, can I just say, I love the color purple. So, this shade of purple is my absolute favorite. And when the jacket is off of the book, the actual book itself is also just a really nice purple cover. I don't buy books because I love the cover, but it's definitely a bonus when the plot sounds really cool and when the cover is as pretty as it is. So I found this book, or I saw it on Bookstagram because a lot of my book friends and like book mutuals were talking about this book. And I think one of them might have tagged me in a post about this book because she thought I would really love it. And she was right because it sounds really cool. So the inside flap says, a month ago, Junia Daniels was in a car crash that left her with a dead sister, fragmented memories of the accident, and a mother too checked out to plan a funeral. The cheapest burial plot Junie can find is in the next town over. Sure, Williamsville is still proudly named after a slave master who is rumored to dabble in dark magic, but this is North Carolina after all. When Junie and her best friend Omari visit the grave, unexplained occurrences start happening. Flowers wither as soon as they're planted. A bird falls dead on the headstone. The more Junie and Omari investigate and learn about Williamsville's history, the stranger their lives get. And it's not long before they're taken. Williamsville wants both Daniel's girls, but Junie will do anything to protect her sister, even if it's only her corpse. That last line to me is beautiful. It sounds so heartwarming. And I just love reading books that have such strong sibling bonds. Like, I almost wanted to ask my sister if she would protect my corpse because that's the kind of question that I would ask my sister. So it's definitely in line with this book. So I'm just really excited to read it. I also saw those same like book friends post. Oh, I don't know if they posted a review about the book or if they commented on my post about this book because I made a reel when I got this in the mail. I bought it myself, by the way. I made a reel, they commented on it, and they were just raving about it. And they're really excited to know what I think about this book because they loved it and they think I would love it. It's also still so hot in here, but it hasn't been as hot as compared to like the last videos I made because I was like dripping in the last couple videos that I made. And I am dripping with sweat like today, but I just like cleaned myself up. Anyway, doesn't matter. So that is everything that I have for my August TBR stack, and I'm really excited because I have, I think, a lot of good picks for my list. So that's really cool. And I do have like literally a week and a half of free time in August. And I'm hoping that in that free time, I could read a little bit more than what I have been. Because in that week and a half break that I have, I don't have anything like super wild planned, to be honest, because like it's gonna be during the week. I also do work a couple of times in that free time, and my husband also works, so it's not like I can just say like, "Hey, let's just take a few days to go do something fun." So it's fine. At most in that week, I just want to read. I want to have uninterrupted reading time. So I am just so excited for all of the picks that I have for August, and I'm really curious to see what my reading will look like in that week and a half break that I have. So that is honestly all that I have for today. I would love to know what your favorite book for July was, or if there is a particular book that you're excited to read in August. Thank you so much for listening to me, and I will see you later.